Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adrian Welsh, and I'm the Application Support Engineer for Juniper Systems. One of my primary applications that I support is Juniper Aspect Field Mapping Solutions software. I'm joined today by Jim Benson. He's the Product Manager for Juniper Aspect. And if you can, let me know if you can't hear me very well, and you could type in a little chat box down there. Today we're going to go over a real brief training webinar on managing object catalogs with Juniper Aspect. I believe all the topics associated with managing object catalogs can be fit into less than 1 hour, hopefully. We'll see, though. And the purpose of this training is to maximize your efficiency in managing object catalogs, as well as to help anyone with any particular issues that you may have. The main audiences for this webinar are people who are using Juniper Aspect or using IntuiTrace, but it is open for anyone who wants a better understanding of the software as well. Here's the training outline for today's webinar, and you can see how I delimited the time for each topic. And there are several topics in this list. I want to spend about 5 to 10 minutes on each one, with a few question and answers in the middle and some question and answers at the end as well. All this information deals with the desktop side of the software. I don't think I'm going to be able to have too much time to touch into the mobile side, but we'll see if I get some time at the end here. And for asking questions, you can type into the little chat box provided by GoToWebinar. Jim will be reading some of the questions and responding to some as we go along. And also during some of the question and answer sessions, we'll go over some of the more specific questions that you may ask, and more questions during the question and answer time as well. If we don't get to your question, or if you have more questions afterwards, you may email me at support@junipersys.com, and I'll go over the contact information again at the end of this presentation. And if there's any last-minute questions, we can discuss those at the end of this webinar as well. And now on to the software demonstration. This webinar will mostly focus on managing object catalogs from the desktop side of the software. If we have time at the end or have some specific questions on it, I'll look at the catalogs on the mobile software, but all of the managing part of it is related to the desktop side. The mobile side just kind of shows the object catalog that you created. Let me get Aspect opened up here. Okay, so when you first install Juniper Aspect, you will defaultly get the default object catalog. Let me open up my object catalogs here so I can show you what I'm talking about. I have a lot of catalogs in here, so it'll be quite a bit here, but where is it at? Okay. Uh-oh. Sorry, GoToWebinar likes to make me close my Juniper Aspect and open it again a few times, so let me just get this open again. In any case, when you first install Juniper default object catalog, if you're using IntuiTrace beforehand, it'll catalog the three. Time. Scroll down a bit here. Okay, so yeah, mine down here says default part catalog, but created by IntuiTrace. Before I get into these catalogs too long, I want to talk to you about a couple of things here first. So there's two different versions of Juniper Aspect. There's a professional version and a standard version. To find out which version you have, you can look under your tools, and if you go into About, here you can see what product level you have. I had the professional level. And the reason why I'm explaining this to you is for the standard level license, you're allowed to have 2 object catalogs. You'll get the default catalog that comes with it, which is a pretty comprehensive list of about 2,000 common irrigation parts, simply because the software was originally created for irrigation purposes. Now it's expanded for any kind of mapping in the field. But also with the standard catalog, so you get 2 catalogs. It's the default one and whatever catalog you want to create. With the professional level license, you have an unlimited amount of catalogs. So I'm going to look back in my Manage Object Catalogs here. And let's take a look at the different buttons associated that you'll see on these catalogs here. So to open your catalog, this stuff is pretty simple. You'll see this information in the user manual. If you get lost, you can open up the manual. It'll tell you what each of these buttons mean in lots of detail. But just in real general, I'll show you what they mean. This folder here opens the object catalog. If I had a handheld connected, you'll see my mace over here turn from gray to orange, and it'll say something along the lines of this kind of device is connected. And I'll be able to synchronize the project with these blue arrows here. Right now you can't see them because they're grayed out since I have no handheld connected. As well as these light bulbs here will change based on what kind of synchronization status you have. If you're green, you're good. You have a little check mark there. If you have a handheld connected and your light bulb is yellow, that means that you have a synchronization conflict and one side is more current than the other side. So all you have to do is really click these blue arrows here and it synchronizes it and you're good to go. This green arrow here just refreshes the status. It's mostly important if you have your catalog open on both the handheld and your desktop. So refreshing that will tell you the most up-to-date synchronization status. Here I can edit the properties. Oh, my aspect is giving me problems today. Apologize for that. The little pencil icon opens the properties. I can change the name of it, who created it, things like that. And the little trash can on the side will delete the project or delete the catalog. I'm not sure why my aspect keeps closing on me. I think it's related to GoToWebinar. What happens is my screen resolution changes, and aspect doesn't like that on my computer here. Let me get this open again, then we'll open up a catalog so you can take a look at the inside of it. I have to verify my license here. A lot of folks, just to sort of address some questions, a lot of folks ask about the default catalog, how they want to add some parts to it that they normally use that aren't in the default catalog, and that's pretty simple to do, and I'll show you how to do that here in just a second once this gets loaded and everything. Sometimes this takes longer to verify a license, sometimes it's really quick, so it's kind of depending on a lot of things here. Right now I'm hooked up to the Wi-Fi in my building, and also going through GoToWebinar sort of delays the internet connection here, which is, as you can see, giving me some problems with the speed of opening Juniper Aspect. Oh, here we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, let's open up Manage Object Catalogs. I'm going to scroll down to my default catalog here. I'm going to open up this default part catalog, or yours might say default object catalog. Okay, so I'm going to make this large size here. All right, so taking a look at this list here, or this interface here, you'll notice a couple of things. The first thing I want to show you is, well, basically this screen is divided into three sections. You have the top section, which is your ribbon toolbar up here at the top, and we'll talk about these tools in just a little bit afterwards. And then you have your object types section, which is this left-hand side, and then your object section, which is your right-hand side. Let's take a look at the object types first. So each object type is basically a layer in your map. And so I'm going to drop down this drop-down list here, and it'll show me all the layers that are from the default part catalog, the default object catalog that comes installed with Juniper Aspect. And these are sorted alphabetically. When you create a new one, I think it'll resort them alphabetically as well. But just a real general overview of what you can do on this interface here and what things mean. I want to show you a few things. So there's 4 different I guess browsers or tabs you can click on from the object type side of managing object catalogs. So let's just look at the first thing here is the backflow devices and Symbology. Symbology is the icon or the symbol that's represented for the part that you're mapping, or the object that you're mapping. So this backflow device, we have a built-in list of icons here. It looks kind of like a little, I don't know what that is, a nozzle or something like that, or backflow preventer. For the symbol types, I have 3 different types here. I could choose a preset of icons, which is what it's on now, and this will give me a list here of what icons I can choose. So when I drop down this list here, we have I think it's maybe 150 different preset icons that we created mostly for irrigation-related stuff, but you can use these icons for anything related. There's an arrow that could be commonly used for anything. Every letter is represented, so we have A, B, C, etc. that goes down. And it's really kind of pick and choose of some default icons that we created for Juniper Aspect. If I didn't want one of these icons, I can choose a simple symbol type. And here I have just a couple options. I have a square or a circle. And let me change the size here. Okay, so the square or circle, and how each one will look will be a dark, or normally a dark border with a dot in the middle. So same with the circle, same with the square. And my fill color, I could change my fill color. I don't like this red. It's kind of hard to see. Let me drop down my list here. Let's just use maybe yellow, easy to see. So it's yellow fill color. And I can change the border width. Right now it's at 1. I kind of like it at 1, but I can, each time I increase it, you can see it starts growing on the side here. My border gets thicker, as well as the dot in the middle gets thicker. And then it starts getting a little crazy once you get past 3 or so. And I can change the size of it. So there's 4 different sizes, basically from small to large, and this tells you how many pixels it is. So I put at the largest size here. The border width is a little better here. So at 48 pixels, the largest size I can do for this symbol type. If I increase this to a 5 border width, you can still see everything in there. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend using a 48 pixel icon for your object, your mapping, but it's kind of personal choice, and you can pick and choose these later to see what you like. If you have too many icons mapped on your map and they're this large, it gets pretty messy. So I kind of like to keep it at the 16 pixels. And you can see it, a 5 border width, it's kind of messy. So I'm going to reduce that so you can start seeing it better. I still like to use 1. But I think I'll go back to my icon because I like the backflow preventer icon for this. But one other thing you could do is custom icons. And this is if you have your own image that you want to use for this object. So you just go into Select. It'll open up your My Pictures box, and you can find something you've stored, either downloaded from the internet or an icon you created yourself. And the image file types it needs to be is either PNG, a JPEG, a GIF, or a bitmap. But I don't want to add anything here, so let's move on to the next tab here. So Object Browser Attributes. This will just show me what I see in the handheld. So the handheld device can only see on this little icon bar here, they can only see 3 at a time. And so I have 5 attributes here, and the 3 that's going to be displayed are the 3 that are checked. And you can see I can't check these other ones because I already have 3 checked. If I uncheck one, then I'm free to check whichever one I want to check next. But when I check the next one, it'll gray out these checkboxes so I can't check them. So it's really just what's displayed on the handheld. This doesn't change anything that you're going to see anywhere else except this list of parts or objects on the handheld. I'm going to change back to the series here. And catalog attributes are the attributes that are things that you can't necessarily change in the field or on the handheld. It's just the list of what each of your attributes are for each of your objects or your object types. And so there are 5 in the default part catalog or default object catalog. There are 5 common catalog attributes. There's manufacturer, series, part number, part description, and schedule description. And you can kind of see an example of one of the objects here of how those are populated and what they look like. And I'll go over this more in detail in just a second. If I want to add a new one, I just type in this box here, and some people like to add cost as a catalog attribute to their parts here, to their objects. So once I type it, I can hit Enter to add it, or click on this plus sign, and then I'll put it down here at the bottom. And so now I have a new attribute I can use with my backflow devices. I'll have to go and update the cost of each of the objects later on, but we'll go over that in just a second. And the last part of the tabs here, the object types, is the in-field attributes. These are the questions that you want to ask in the field. And so there's two different ways of doing this. There's the user entered and there's the selectable. A common question people like to ask about the parts or the objects you're mapping is, what kind of condition is it in? So I'm going to type in the word condition, and I have 4 different data types I can use for this. And normally you'll just use text because it'll take numbers, letters, anything. If you're using just a number variable, like if it's an ID number for each of your objects, you can use numbers. Decimal is basically, if your numbers are integers, decimals are floating points. So if you have something you need to use a decimal with, you use that one. And dates are commonly used as well. Some people want to know the date an object was installed or something along those lines. But I'm just going to use text. I'm going to click on this plus sign here, and it adds it down here. Oh, I also have date installed as well. That's one I made a long time ago. Okay. Selectable attributes is basically same thing. Ask a question in a field, but you have a predefined set of answers. And so I can also use the term condition. Let's use age as an example. And so when I hit plus to add this, and then it'll ask me what variables will I use under age. And so commonly I can use old, new, maybe even not available as a choice. But this is all up to the user and how you want to have this entered and how you want to input it. And so this is just an example of how to use this interface here to add selectable attributes and how to add the in-field attributes. Now taking a look at the object side here. So in my backflow devices, I have all these objects under here. You can see my list of the manufacturer, the series, the part number, etc. If I want to change anything, I just click on the object and type down here what this is. And once I type in this box here, it is saved. A lot of folks ask, where's the save button? How do I save this? This is live editing, so anything you do is going to be saved in here. If I take things away and erase it, it's gone. So if I misspell something, I don't get anything bad until I type back in here. One thing I kind of want to show you is another way of looking at these objects that it's kind of fun. So let's take a look at controllers. Since we have a lot of controllers in our default list here, I don't want to scroll through all of these because it just takes forever. I want to see certain things. So one thing you could do is take these column headers and drag them to the top up here and just drop them right in this blue area. And what this does, if I do it by manufacturer, it'll sort out all the different types of manufacturers I have. So I only have 4 types of manufacturers. That makes it a lot easier to go through this list. If I click on the plus sign under Rainbird manufacturer for these controllers, it'll open up just the Rainbird controllers. And so I can just see those if I want to see it. If I want to get more specific and say that I want to sort these out by manufacturer and by series, I'll just pull the series up here. And now I have 2 ways of sorting it. So let's look under Rainbird. And these are different series types I have. It sort of defines it a lot more clear here. So if I want to see the ESP series of Rainbird controllers, just click on the plus sign here. It shows me all 8 of them or so. So that's kind of a way of looking at your objects and kind of a fun way of playing around. To put these back in the list, I just drag it back in here and drop them in there. And where the little arrows are, I just drop them. The next thing I want to look at is the buttons here in this ribbon bar. And so they're more or less self-explanatory of how to add objects and how to add object types. Let's go back to my backflow devices. So if I want to add a new backflow device that's not in this list, I just go to Object and click on the New button. This will add the new part here. And so it'll put down here in the bottom, and it's all blank. So this is where I need to fill it in. And so I don't know an example of what these should be, but you can see this is whatever you want to put in, and this is how it would look. And that's how you'd add a new part or a new object. If I want to take this away, let's say I don't like this here, I just go up here to Object and delete it, and it warns you because it's a permanent deletion. You can't get it back. There's no undo button. So be careful when you're deleting things. So I'm going to say yes because I don't really want that in there. The same with object type. if I want to add a new object type, I just click on this new here. And this is a higher level way of doing things, because this will add it to my object type drop-down list. It's basically a new layer. And so a lot of folks want to add a new entire type to their default catalog. Let's say that folks are using water meters, and there's no water meters in here, so let's just add water meters. And so you have to do three things. You have to have a name, you have to have a geometry type, and you have to have some attributes. And normally it's going to be a point, but if you're walking an area, you do polygon. If you're walking like a wire or some kind of straight line, then you do a line. But water meters, I'll use them as a point. For the attributes, I can use the common ones that were in there beforehand, like manufacturer, part number, etc. And so I can keep adding as much as I want to, and hit add here. And see, it'll add it in my list here. And the first thing I want to do is define the symbology. It'll defaultly assign you a simple symbol with normally a circle and some randomly assigned color. But I might want to use an icon list here and take a peek at what I can add. And, well, I don't see anything that I like too much in here, but let's just use a flush valve. Why not? If I want to add more catalog attributes, let's say I know that I need to have a cost associated with these, I'll just type in cost and add it here. But as you can see right now, I have no objects in my list here for water meters. So I do need to add an object. So I click on this new to add the object, and here I do not know manufacturers of water meters, but this is just kind of how you do it. This is how you'd use this graphical user interface to populate your parts catalogs, your object catalogs, and to just make your database of things you're going to be mapping. And then the last thing you'll see, these buttons up here at the top, are involving CSV files. And so a CSV is a comma-separated values file. What that is normally you can pull it up in an Excel document. It looks like a spreadsheet. You can also pull it up in a text document. It'll look like a bunch of words separated by commas. If I want to export this list, this object list here, I just click on this to file, and it'll bring up a catalog or a dialog of what my options are. And if I want to bring in a CSV list I've made in the past, then I just click on this from file, and it brings that in. But we'll go over that in a little more detail the next topic. Right now, I wanted to pause for some questions and some answers. I want to talk with Jim to see if we've gotten any questions from anybody in the field, or if he has anything to add, any comments.
No questions so far. You're doing good.
Great, that's good to hear. Yeah, this type of training isn't as glorious as looking at the desktop side or the mobile side. It's kind of more of the stuff you'll be stuck in the office doing side, but it is pretty important, and it is pretty powerful for this software of how things are made. So the next thing I want to talk about is how to create an object catalog. So let's say we're making one from scratch. So the first thing I do is go back into my catalog list here, and I click on this plus sign that says Create New Empty Object Catalog. When I do this, I have two required fields. I have to give it a name. Let's just call it trees, and I'm going to put my name here, Adrian. And optionally, I can import a CSV file from this creation here, but I don't want to do that just yet. I'll show you that later. So let's just create a blank one. I'm calling it all trees. So let's just randomly make some trees here. And so it'll show up in my list alphabetically, so it's kind of here at the top. And I'm going to open up this catalog. Okay, so you can see it's pretty blank looking, and the only thing I can do, I can't add any objects because I don't have any object types yet, and I can export and import, but that's not necessary right now. Let me add a new object type. So this is called tree, so let's just make, let's say, a fruit tree. What will I want? I'll want, let's say type, the type of fruit tree. I don't want to get too much detail here. This is kind of just for example purposes and showing you how to create one from scratch. So now I have my fruit trees. I can use a simple symbol here, a little purple circle. But let's add some objects. Let's just say I want to have apple tree as one of my objects. I'm not sure, peach. And let's just, for grins, one more. Let's have a pear tree. That's kind of how you'd add an object type and object to your list, just real quickly. And if you have a few things to add, I'd recommend going this route using the graphical user interface here, this catalog, managing object catalog screen here. If you have a whole bunch of stuff you need to add, I'd recommend using the CSV method for import and export. And I'll go over that in just a second. But let's add a couple more things just to have a little more comprehensive database here. Why not a fir tree? Let's use type and add. And let's add a couple of fir trees here. Douglas fir, white fir. A couple more objects I want to add here. I want to show you one more thing. Pine tree. So one thing that I want to take notice of, once I type in the name and have a geometry type, I still can't add this until I have a catalog attribute. If I type in an attribute here, I have to either hit the plus sign or hit enter to make this attribute show up, so I still can't add anything. So I'm going to hit my enter button and it'll show up down here at the bottom. Now I can add this. Let's add a couple of pines, like ponderosa. I guess I shouldn't get too much detail here, but limber pine. One more object I want to add. Let's add a juniper tree. Why not? Let's use type as my attribute. Add that. Add. I need to have some objects here. So let's make a Utah juniper and why not a common juniper? Okay, so now I have a few object types that I created here, and each one has objects in it, and you can see my list here of objects. That's simply how you'd create something like this. And let's say I found an icon or so that looks more like a fruit tree than this purple circle here. So I'm going to go down my symbol list and click on Custom. And this will bring up my dialog where I can add from my pictures list of what kind of image I want to add. So I'm going to select the image. I found some lists here. And here's a fruit tree. And it has like a little fruit tree. And I can make it bigger to make it look a little better. For juniper, let's see, what do I have? I kind of have this little juniper berry looking thing here from our old logo. Let me add a couple more things. Fir. I was thinking of a Christmas tree, but I just found a real simple black and white icon here. Let's make it a little bigger. And the last one was pine. Click a custom symbol, select it, open up this list of icons. Yeah, right here. Okay, so that's how you'd add a custom icon to one of your objects. And this can be useful if you're have a large list of stuff that you don't want to be everything be represented by a circle or a square. And it's also would make your map look a little more flashy as well. Let's take a look at these lists down here. This is what's going to show up in my handheld. That's okay. I only have one type of attribute. Again, I have one attribute. I can add more if I want to, but I don't need to. But let's look at in-field attributes. So here's where you ask the questions in the field. And so let's say each tree that I'm mapping is going to have a number or an ID. So I'm going to have a tree ID for each one, and it's going to be a number field. So let's add that. And let's say I want to have some drop-down list of what these trees are going to be, what kind of categories I want them to have. So height is a pretty common one. And I don't want to get too detailed here. We can just say small, medium, large, etc. You can put whatever you want in here, like numbers or many values. This is kind of up to how you want to do it. Other common things you'll see in here is, like you've seen before, condition. And again, you can get as detailed as you want. I'll just put good, bad, and not available. Why not? Some other things I want to add in here, maintenance on a tree, and this can be related to if it needs pruning, or let's say it's okay, or needs trimming, needs removed, etc. And so this is your list of attributes that you'll be at. These are the questions you're asking in the field, and these are the answers that are predefined for you. And so for each pine tree you go to, you'll tell what kind of pine it is, either ponderosa or limber pine, based on your object types here. So type in the tree ID number, and then what kind of height, condition, and maintenance it is. And so if I put my mouse over maintenance here, you can see the little window that pops up, sorry, excuse me, that has what my selectable attribute values are. And that's kind of a real simple way of adding in these selectable attributes and everything. But again, like I said before, if you have a really large database with a lot of object types and a lot of objects, going the CSV route is more or less the better way to go. Now, there's two ways of doing this. You can start from scratch, create your own CSV from scratch, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. The way I'd recommend it is to first export an example one. So I would take this and export it to a file, and then kind of see how it's formatted, and go from there to bring it back in as an import. So let's export this tree database out here from a file. So let's see, where's a good place to put it. If I go to browse, it's going to take me all over. Hang on. Let's find a place. Put in my documents. Test. There we go. So here's some more options here. You can the only option here is to find the name, and all trees is the name of my catalog, so that's fine with me. I'm going to hit export. It'll bring up a little dialogue of, let's go back to that, dialogue of what happened. It was really fast because it's a pretty small database. And then it brings up the folder that that this was imported into, exported into. So what happens is it'll create this folder called all trees. And inside here, it'll have, let me make this smaller. Okay. You'll have two different CSV files. One is your object types, and one is basically what's inside of it. And also any associated pictures, which are the custom icons, will be imported into this as well. So let's first look at the object types. This is kind of the higher level here. And this is kind of how it's formatted. Let me make this a little bigger so it's easier to see and sort of expand everything. Let me easier if I make it larger. There we go. I hope at least. Let's see. Let's make it bigger. Why not? Okay. So scrolling to the top here. Let me freeze these panes. Okay. Every object catalog, object types, has to have these first two columns. So the first one is called object space type, just like this. This will be where you name your object types. And geometry. You have to have these. And this geometry only has three options: point, line, or polygon. These are all points, so that's how they're all going to look. And you can see for the pine tree, this is where I started defining those user-entered attributes. So I have my tree ID, the height, conditions, and maintenance are the things that I added. And so this is how these will be formatted. And this is all written in the user manual, so if you need some reference on what this is, again, it's a really good place to look at the user manual. But again, like I said, is once you create your own object catalog, if you export it, you get to see an example of what it looks like. And so for the field entered attributes, that's the questions you ask that have like an open-ended answer. It has to have an S and a colon, and then your name of what the attribute is, so the tree ID. And then you have to define whether it's a number, a date, or what was it, text, or a decimal. Those are the four different categories there. And again, this is all in the user manual, so if you need reference on those again, that's where you'd see it. For the selectable attributes, you'll have an S and a colon in the name of the attribute. And so then your options will be separated by commas. So small, medium, large, the condition is good, bad, not available, etc. If I wanted every object type to have these same field attributes, all I'm going to do is copy this right here and just copy it. First copy it and then just paste it in each one. And so now once I bring it back in, it'll use these and on each one of my object types. So looking at some of these other options here, the border color, this is when you're using just the simple Symbology type. Let's take a look at that again. And so for this, if I were to go back in my Symbology tab here, and if I were doing this simple symbol, the border color is this outside color here. So looking at this Excel document, it's a hex key of what the color black is represented in HTML. And border thickness is one, but it knows I'm using the custom symbol type and not the symbol. So when I use custom type, it's going to know to look for a picture. And so this is all that's going to be here defaultly. I had changed the size to 24 by 24. I was using a circle, and the fill color, that was that green-looking color there. And these will all be represented by an HTML type field here. And if you know what these numbers are, then you can add your own colors and whatnot. If you don't, it's no need to worry about it. I'll show you real quick. So this green is represented by this. How many numbers is that? 7 or 8 letters and numbers that shows that's what that green would be represented as. If I drop this down, I can pick them out of here, and it'll show me what that color would be. If I go to more colors, here's where I can type in the actual exact numbers and letters if I have an exact color that I need to use. But I'm not too concerned with that. I'm going to keep with my custom icon here. Okay, so for the custom image, it knows I'm using this fruit tree here, or fruit image that was exported into my folder here. And just moving on, look at more stuff. This browser category 1, 2, and 3 is the same as you saw on here for the object browser attributes. I only have one, and so it's going to show this type as my browser category. Like you saw before on the default catalog, I had 5 different attributes here, and I can only choose 3. That's what the 1, 2, and 3 is. It's which 3 you want to choose here. And that's really all there is to the types part of this. I'm going to save this because I changed some things. Click on Save. And saving CSV files in Excel isn't very intuitive and doesn't make very much sense, but this is my advice. Click Save, say yes, close it, and say don't save. It's kind of strange, but that's how it is. Let's take a look at the other one that was generated, the all trees. This is basically just the objects that were made from my object list. And let's make this a little larger so I can see it pretty well. And so I had 3 different fruit trees. There were the pear, peach, and apple. You see the 2 different firs, the 2 different pines, and the 2 different juniper trees. And but just like before, the first 2 columns here have to be object type and geometry. They have to be filled in. The next can be whatever. Let's say type is just fine. What if I wanted to add Latin name for each one of these trees? I do not know what they are. I can't even think of what they would be at all. So let's just for fun, just put some kind of value in here. And I'm going to show you how to bring it back in. So again, I'm going to save this. Click on the Save button. Say yes. I'm going to close it and say don't save, because CSVs are kind of strange in Excel. That's the best way I know how to do this. I'm going to bring this file back in because I made some changes to it. I'm going to bring it in from the file. I'm going to import it. And let's see, where was this again? My documents, Juniper aspect. Where was it? That's under test, I think. Okay, test and all trees. I'm going to hit OK. And under more options, it's going to ask me sorry, what my object's file name is and my object's type file name. And this is what they were named. And I want to include them so they're checked. And here I can either append to the catalog, it means just add to it, or I can replace it. I can also check for duplicates, but I want to just replace the whole thing. Because I made changes and everything should be okay once I bring it back in. When I hit import, it says replace is going to overwrite everything. Are you sure? It can't be undone. There's no undo button. I am sure, so I'm going to hit yes. And again, it's pretty small, so it brought it in pretty quickly. I'm going to hit close. And here you can see the changes that are made. For my fir trees, the type still these times in Latin names where I could have put in whatever the Latin name is for these fir trees. But the other thing that was changed was the in-field attributes. Now each one of these has the questions I want to ask in the field for each one of these types. And so I had the tree ID, the height, the condition, and the maintenance. And that's how you would export a CSV, make changes, and bring it back in. That's how I would do it at least. There's different ways you can do it, but this, I think, is the easiest way to do it. One other thing I want to show you is, let's say there's a internet site that has a database of plants that you want to bring, or a database of parts or objects or whatever you need, and how do you get it from the internet into your database? And let me show you an example that I've used before that I like. So I've gone to, I'm going to go to Google, and there's a list that the state of Utah puts out called Water-Wise Plants, and I think it's pretty neat. So I'm going to put up Water-Wise Plants, Utah, search for that, and simple website, waterwiseplants.utah.gov. So if I want to do some landscaping with these water-wise plants, here's where I'd look for a list of them. But I want to map these in my yard or map a plan of how I want to do them. So I'm going to go to this Browse button here. And here it has a list of all the different water-wise plants. I have shrubs, grasses, vines, etc. And the question is, how do you get this from here and into your list? So I'm going to just take this. I'm going to start from the bottom. I'm going to copy and paste all this. Let's go to the bottom, down here, and scroll up all the way to the top, all the way to cacti. Okay, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to open up a new Excel file. I'm going to hit this. I'm going to make this large sized. Let's increase the size a little bit here. So I'm just going to paste it right in here. It's going to take a bit of time. Oh, now it's not responding. Probably should use different Excel. Hopefully it will react here in a second. Oh, there we go. Okay. So it's not too pretty looking. I don't really like how this looks at all, actually. But this is kind of the start of how you do this. So here's how I would do this, and it's not the flashiest because CSV files can't handle images and hyperlinks and things like that. I'm just going to quickly save it to a CSV and then close it and open it again so it'll look more formatted how I want it to be formatted. So I'm going to go to File and Save As. Put it in here. Oh, oops. Okay. And when you're saving as a CSV, you need to drop down this list here in Excel, and there's one that just says CSV, delimited.csv. And book 1 is fine. Let me go and call it something more specific. Water-wise plants. All right, I'm going to hit Save. Okay, now that's saved. Some features might be lost. That's totally fine. That's why I want to save it. I'm going to hit Yes. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to close this. I don't want to save it again. And let's bring up that folder that had, there you go, Water-wise plants. And you'll see it looks totally different, but it's just basically more textual and not as flashy as before. And it's kind of not formatted the way I need it to be formatted. So the first thing I need to do, if you remember, is I need 2 columns in the front. And these have to be called Object Type and Geometry. And here for geometry, each one of these is going to be a point. So I'm just going to put point for now, and I'll copy and paste down the line later. My object types are these top ones here. So I'm going to move this cacti over here, and deciduous trees over here. This is where it gets kind of tricky, but we'll get it here in a second. Let me move these up. See, I messed up. Deciduous trees is down here. Oops. But this takes us a little bit of formatting, and I could sit here and toy with this all day, but here I need to put the column names for these. So this was the Latin name, and this was the common name. So now I have my headers and my objects here. And what I would do is I would just delete these white spaces and move from here. I'd take this word point and copy it and just paste it all the way down here so I have point for everywhere. And for each one of these are cacti, each one of these are coniferous trees, each one of these are deciduous trees, etc. So you can see what I'm doing, and this is how it'll look eventually. I've already created this and put it somewhere else. I'm not going to save this. Let me close this out and open up completed. And so this is how it look. Let me make this a little easier to see. All right, so as you can see, it's the same thing here. Object type, geometry, my Latin name, my common name, and for all these plants here. Now I want to bring this into, gosh, my scroll wheel is kind of messy. I'm bringing this back into Juniper Aspect. Now beforehand, I showed you that each exported catalog brings out two CSVs. One is the object type CSV, and one is the objects. So you can see this one is obviously my objects. I can create an object type CSV with all those details of what symbol will be for each one, what's the border color, what's the fill color, all that good stuff. But I don't care about that too much right now. I want it to be randomly assigned. So I could just bring in this one CSV, and it'll work just fine. But let me show you how to do that. Let me close this. I need to have a folder that just has that one CSV in it. Let's just call this Flowers Plants. And I'm going to put this in here. Now this folder only has that one CSV in it. I'm going to copy this path. And so let's create a new catalog again, an empty catalog. And here, I'm going to put a number at the top so it'll go right straight to the top. Water-wise plants created by me. And here's where I have the option of bringing in the folder. So I'm going to click on this list here. Oh, I got to navigate to it. Let's not do that. Let's just straight up do it from here. Save it. So here's my water-wise plants. Open it. And it'll be blank like you've seen before. So I'm going to export from the file. And let me highlight all of this. Copy and paste. That's okay. All right, let's see what's going to happen here. Directly does not contain required. So this way import requires to have that object file. So I don't want to do that. Let's delete this. Okay, sorry, that's kind of messy. All right, start over again. 3 large plants. So here I need to import it from here when I just straight up make it. So I go to my name, my documents. Oops, not that one. Juniper support, test, completed, and the water-wise plants. Okay, and I'm going to hit create or save. So this will create it, imports it, show the progress bar, and now it's here. When I open it, it should all be populated the way I saw it before. Make it bigger. Okay, so here I have my object types. I have cacti, the trees, the grasses, etc. Everything should be here. Looks like it. Yeah, so it has different types of cactus and etc. And one thing I noticed from that website beforehand is each one had this little icon. I kind of like these icons. They look kind of nice. So I'm going to take this, right-click, save an image as, put it wherever. I already have listed these somewhere, so I don't want to bring these back in. So you can save it wherever. I'm going to go into each one of these under cacti. I'm going to go under custom for my symbol. Go to select, and let's find, where do I have these? There we go, cacti. So now I have a little cactus image for my cacti. And I can go to each one. I have one for trees. Go down to custom, go to select, to my icon folder that I put in here earlier, coniferous trees, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of my example of bringing a database from the internet to something that you've seen before. I kind of want to show you one other example that I thought was pretty interesting. The USDA has a list of all wetland plants that's extremely comprehensive, and it's pretty nicely formatted. So if I go to this website here from the USDA, this is all wetland plants that should be found anywhere in the U.S., and it has, I think it's like 8,200 of these, and so it's just a ton. And normally, I don't think that you would want something this large, but this is kind of an example of how you do it. I could just copy and paste this into an Excel file, but I believe it has it where I could just download a CSV here already. And so you won't always have this luxury of doing this, but this is pretty nice that I can download this. Let me see if it's working for me right now. It's going really slow. This thing is trying to load all 8,000 plants from here. And, oh, I just went to the bottom. Let's not do that. Let me see. Where is my... Is this how I get it? No. Somewhere in here I could download the CSV. Let's see if it's at the bottom. Nope. In any case, I've done this in the past. I forgot how I did this now. But this is an example of finding a really large table. Oh, download CSV. Here it is. And so here's the CSV, and this is kind of how CSVs are displayed normally. You'll see a bunch of commas, a bunch of words. So it's a text file. So I need to take this, right-click, and save as, and it'll be saved as a CSV. I'll just put it. Let me find my test file here. 2012 wetlands. So now it's saved down there. I'm going to open it up. It should open up in Excel. And this is kind of how it was formatted beforehand. So it's kind of messy. It needs a little bit of touching up. And I don't need this date or these two columns here. These two rows are empty. And I need to delete this row right here so I have my headers. Okay, so my headers are at the top, and everything else is good to go. So like I said before, to bring this in if you wanted to is you have to have object type and geometry. Now, one thing you could do with this is one way I did it. I'm not going to do this whole thing, but here, obviously, you have to have a point. Each one of these is going to be a point. The plant you're mapping. Copy and paste point all the way down, and I used I segregated all these out and used the genus name for objects to try to make it a little bit of a smaller list, but it didn't make it too small. Let me show you what it looks like. I brought this in earlier. Close this. Open up wetland plants. And because there's 8,000 objects and about 1,900 object types, it takes a little bit longer. Oh, faster than I thought. Okay. And here is the same stuff we saw earlier. It had the symbol, the scientific name, and here I broke out genus and species. And I have each one of these broken out by genus, and I can just click on any of these and it'll bring up, if it has a list, it'll be here. Sometimes there's just one per object type, but that's just kind of an example of using a catalog that's already out there on the internet to bring into Juniper Aspect. You can do this with any other kind of objects list that you have. It could be street signs, inventory. It could be infrastructure you're mapping for a city, like manholes and valve covers and things like that. But really, it's unlimited of how you can do this and how you can do anything you want with this, basically. And I want to turn the time to Jim right now, see if we have any questions and answers, or questions that anybody has asked throughout the time.
Well, we've got a couple. One is, can we get any of these samples, or can you provide any of these samples to people that are interested?
Yeah, we sure can. Like you saw before, this is all information I took from the internet, so it's not really any kind of proprietary data that isn't allowed to be shared. So yeah, I can definitely post these examples onto I believe we could probably put them on our website. I'll show you here in a second. We have a training page that we host these videos, and there's where I could post some examples for example catalogs. And I believe we have a street sign inventory Jim created a little while ago that's pretty nice. It has like stop signs and things like that in it. And yeah, it's a good question. I'll definitely get those posted when we get some time. And when we get them posted, we'll definitely send an email out.
Good, good. I think that'd be good. We've done a number of different ones. I know, like everything from snow removal to street lights to security cameras, you name it. And they're just good examples to follow. Really keep in mind that having the database feature in the system where you can create these things allows you to define and map any object out there that you need to know where it is or you want to maintain it. So the other question, which is can you change the database from the handheld? And that's kind of an easy one to answer. It's no. The system has been set up so that we don't allow the database itself to be changed from the handheld. And that's because most people prefer that these databases be maintained centrally by one person or in one area. So you can map additional things on the handheld, but they don't become part of the database. So there.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jim. That's some good questions. And yeah, I wanted to show you the handheld side a little bit, but there's really nothing to show much. And just like Jim said, that you can't change things from the handheld on the database side. So one last thing I want to show you is our training page where we host these videos, and this is a growing page that we'll keep adding content to and probably redesign it when we have a lot more content to make it a little more less crowded. But I want to show you how to get there. So you go to junipersys.com is our home page. Under the support tab, there's a training button, and from there is a Juniper Aspect tab. I can just show you real quick on the internet. And so here's our home page. Go under the support tab and then go down to training and click on this. And this is where you'll find where we have our training videos, and this is where I'll be able to post the slideshow for this training here. And once we get the video recorded, we'll put it on our YouTube channel and have it hosted here. And so here's the previous webinars we've done for training purposes. The one on the desktop software is one on the mobile software, and the next one will be for the object catalog. Let me take a look here. And so here's a direct link to that training page, and this will be available via slideshow, PowerPoint at the end. And one more thing, just if you have any questions afterwards or any questions along the way to contact us is our phone number listed here. Our email is support@junipersys.com, and the main product page for Juniper Aspect is junipersys.com/aspect. And that concludes this webinar, and I appreciate everybody for attending. Thank you, Jim, for helping me answer the questions, and I hope to have some more training webinars in the future.
Thanks, everybody, for attending.